$110,000 in net cash flow in year one.
It was an absolute gut punch. I was losing sleep over it, honestly. I would wake up and like not be able to get back to sleep thinking I could have had this opportunity. Like just in disbelief that it was right in front of me and I didn't recognize it. Somebody else swooped in very quickly and got it under contract at the exact price that they told me they were looking for. One of the pieces of feedback the broker gave me is that they felt I was a little pushy. And I said, wow, I really appreciate you sharing that. It's live feedback that I've been trying to work on not doing that, but obviously it had an effect on the seller. So
as a general rule of thumb, and you know this, I want people chasing me. I don't want to be chasing them. I want to attract. I don't want to chase. What is going on, everybody? This is Alex Pardo, and we are back with another episode with Mr. Dan Wenzel here on season 2 of the Storage Wins podcast. Now, look, I don't know if you are joining us now, if this is the first time that you've even heard of me or Dan, or if maybe you've been following along. I think this is going to be episode 15 here of season 2. And either way, welcome to the podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so that you're notified every single week. As we are on a mission, hopefully you are following along Dan's journey here to see if he's able to close on his first deal. And we have been working from the very beginning, going back several months. We've talked about limiting beliefs. We've come up with a plan. We've held him accountable. And so there's a lot that I want to get into on this episode, and I want to continue to build on the previous episode. So if you guys heard the previous episode, Dan was working on 2 deals. One, he was awaiting a contract. Another one, he was kind of stuck on how to make an offer based around seller financing. So we're definitely going to talk on that. And there's also some wins that he's going to share. Now, one of those wins might not sound like a win, but it was a big learning lesson, a big missed opportunity that, to Dan's credit, he's very open and genuine and transparent about sharing the quote unquote L's, right? The learning lessons that we all experience. And that's the purpose of this podcast. You know, before we started recording, I asked Dan, I said, hey man, I know you and I had a call last week, and there was a big takeaway, and it was painful for him because it was a great deal, at least on paper. And we're talking to the tune of 6 figures of cash flow annually without him having to put any money out of his pocket. But it wasn't meant for him. He didn't realize a few things. And so we're going to talk about that on the podcast today. And I think he also has some pretty good news to share about a conversation he had with a broker. So anyway, that is kind of just framing and seeding what we're going to be talking about here. But Dan, brother, welcome, man. I know you've been running and gunning here, so I'm excited to hear these updates.
yeah, thanks, Alex. It's been a fun, busy week.
Beautiful, man. Well, before we dive into that, why don't you share the wins that you got? Let's celebrate the wins, big or small. You know the drill.
Yep. So first win, got 3 offers out last week.
Beautiful.
It's always good to keep the deal funnel going like that and making offers.
Do you remember, before you keep going, do you remember when it was like 3 to 6 months and you didn't have 3 offers out? Now it's like nothing, like waking up in the morning, hey, knocked out 3 offers last week. So kudos to you, brother. What is win number 2?
Yeah, it's a totally different game now, getting them out much more quickly. Number 2, one of the facilities I feel strongly about that I made an offer on last week. I was in touch with a colleague about it, and I made the offer Friday. It's a broker listed property. It wasn't when I first contacted the owner, but I spoke with a colleague about it, and he's on board as being a capital partner on the deal and likes the deal. And so just before this, I hopped on a little late today because I was on the phone with the broker, and the seller's taking this offer seriously. It was a pocket listing that goes onto the market tomorrow, but the broker is going to try to convince the seller to work with me instead of list it, and to try to get it done by the end of the year instead of waiting to see what the
Awesome.
market says. So
Awesome, man. That's huge, brother. Those are big wins, man. I salute you.
yeah,
I congratulate you. And look, this didn't happen overnight. Like you've been working, you've been progressing. I have a couple of quick follow-up questions based on those wins you just shared. Number one, for the benefit of those who might just be joining us or not quite sure, you use these fancy words, pocket listing. What is a pocket listing?
yeah. So every broker has these, to my knowledge and my understanding, that they have a list of people who they know what these people are looking for, and when they get um, a facility to sell, they look at their Rolodex and see if it matches what any of their Rolodex people are looking for, people in the Rolodex. And if they think there's a fit, then they might send it to them a little early if it's someone they have a good relationship with. So this one, I've been in contact with this broker for about 2 years now, just making offers occasionally on deals that he lists, and built a good relationship with him. And the seller knew I had already made an offer on the deal and shared that with the broker. So before the brokers put it on the market, he had this facility come to him, and he sent it to me before he put it on the market. So
Incredible,
that's,
man. So
yeah.
what role here was this, and this is a perfect transition. I kind of led you and you just kind of like walked right into it, which was beautiful. But what kind of role did you taking the time to build a relationship with this broker over the last, it sounds like couple years? Do you think, well, what role did that play? And part B is, do you think he would have picked up the phone and called you or reached out to you with a pocket listing had you not, if you were just some Joe Schmo that maybe called him once or twice, asking him, basic questions that you can find on an offering memorandum, right? Like, tell me a little bit about the role the relationship played.
No doubt. Yeah, I've spoken with the broker. I know what he likes to do for fun. He likes to go on vacations and do things outdoors. And I don't talk to him every day, but I just send him an email once a month or every other month to keep in touch. And um, he knows what I'm looking for, and we've just built that relationship to have more than just a transactional relationship. So
I love it.
he today, when we were talking on the phone, he said he's vouching for me and trying to tell them I'm a genuine guy, and I don't own any storage yet. So one of the seller's concerns is, can you close?
Hmm.
And so he's vouching for me, and that's only because we've built that relationship over time.
Yeah, man. No, 100%. Did you communicate to, and there's a couple things that I want to just share that I think are extremely important for those listening and watching. But before I go there, did you communicate to the broker that you've made an investment, not just of money, but of time and energy to join a community, the Storage Wins community, and that you're getting coached and that you're surrounded by others who own storage, who operate storage, who are pursuing storage? Like, what did that conversation look like? And do you think that helped and played a role in the relationship building process, him taking you serious, etc.?
So a couple things from that question. I actually am not sure if I've shared it with the broker that I'm part of your mentorship group, and um, so I have a buyer info sheet, something we've talked about in the past, and it's something I send along with every offer I make. And on that buyer info sheet, where it talks about me a little bit, I do mention that I'm part of your
Hmm.
coaching program,
Hmm.
but I'm not sure that I've shared it directly with the broker, and
Okay.
I'll make sure he knows that.
Huge. This is a big takeaway, I think, Dan, for, and you know this, right? But like sometimes, there's so many things that we have going on that sometimes things slip or whatever. But like this is big for you, Dan, but for everybody else that's following along on the podcast here, is when you make an investment in yourself and you join a community, you hire a coach, you join a coaching program like Storage Wins. You absolutely want to share that with brokers that you're communicating, that you want to share that with banks and lenders, because it automatically elevates you in their eyes. Why? Because you have now gone from someone who's just talking about buying storage and being a tire kicker and somebody that unfortunately wastes their time to somebody that like, hey, if this person made an investment of not just money, but time and energy, they're serious. It automatically elevates you. You know this, Dan, because you're inside of our Storage Wins community, but how many brokers have we had come on our call? I'm thinking of David from Franklin Street, Kristen from SVN, John Lindsay from Lindsay Self Storage, even the bank rep we had, Ann from Live Oak, right? They've all come on and said the importance of you, if you're serious about this business and this asset class, the importance of aligning yourself with others that are doing it. It makes them feel better that you have guidance, mentorship, and a community of people who have done it. So make that part of your playbook moving forward, that as you're built. Now, you don't have to necessarily say that on the first call. You kind of have to feel it out. But at some point early in the conversation, you want them to know that you are serious. One way you communicate that is not just with how you communicate in the confidence, your tone of voice, but also, hey, listen, I don't know if you've heard, I'm part of this community. Like, we are actively pursuing this. I'm getting guidance, mentorship. Like, I'm serious about this, and communicate that to them. Super important. The other thing is, you talked about a buyer info sheet, which is what we call a secret weapon, right? Inside of our community. Talk a little bit about what the buyer info sheet is, if you had to summarize it in a couple of minutes, and the role that you think that played in separating you from others out there who don't have this quote unquote secret weapon.
Yeah, it's a one pager that talks about who I am and experience that I have, connections that I have, a personal note about me. I actually just pulled it up really quickly as we're talking about it. So it has relevant experience, financial strength. So if I'm part of this community and other colleagues I've met along the way, so it can give an owner confidence that I'm not just kicking tires, that I'm coming to the table to purchase their facility and that I can close.
Yeah.
So it's personal touch and some confidence in closing.
Yeah.
Also.
Think of it as a snapshot. Think of it as your resume. That, and by the way, I like to make sure to include some personal things in there, right? If you got a picture of your family, if you like to travel, if you're into any hobbies. I know Dan loves to hop on is it a mountain bike or is it a road bike? Road bike, right?
Road bike.
Yeah, road bike. So anything like that, like I'm into jiu-jitsu and pickleball, like I like to travel, like throw those things in there, because guess what? Brokers are human beings. They're people, and they have hobbies and interests too. And so they might not have your hobbies and interests, but it just helps to connect on a human level, and it makes it less transactional. So the buyer info sheet, aka secret weapon. In fact, I've released a YouTube video on that, and we can just do a dedicated podcast episode on that in the future. We'll see if we can link that up in the show notes here. So Dan, before I move on and I get some updates on the two deals that you had talked about on the previous episode, I can't help but notice you used the word confidence a minute or two ago. I can't help but feel and sense and see how you've showed up on this podcast episode today. By the way, not that you necessarily haven't showed up in the past. Your energy, though, is different. I see a big smile on your face as I say that, so I think you would agree. What's different here?
This is another win. I did a 112-mile bike ride over the weekend.
Amazing.
And I feel awesome from it.
Good for you, man. Good for you. You know what you call that? I have a good friend of mine, Will, who's training for a 100-mile race. And he just did back-to-back marathons on the same day. So he ran 54.4 miles, I think it is. Wow. It took him, I think it was 10, 11 hours, 12 hours, something like that. I don't know. It was something insane. And he and I were texting on his run. He was like voice texting on his Apple phone. And I was just checking in on him, encouraging him along the way, because I can't imagine what it's like to run essentially 2 marathons in a day, like 54 miles. And I was just encouraging him, man. And at the end, I said, I can't imagine the amount of confidence that you have gained from completing that. And by the way, he took a video of his feet. I'm talking blisters the size of like pebbles, on his feet, like just the pain, the agony, but he did it. He completed it. And when I hear you talk about the fact that I think you said 115 miles,
112. Yeah.
100,
Close enough.
112 miles on a road bike, dude, that's insane. And that's highly impressive. That has absolutely nothing to do with storage. So I'm asking facetiously because I know the answer, but I want you to I want you to share from your perspective, why has that given you so much confidence when that has absolutely nothing to do with storage?
Um, just a personal accomplishment.
Yeah, man.
Um, yeah, and probably just riding the maybe the wave of endorphins or dopamine or something that from the after.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, yeah, it's a personal accomplishment, but I had that great call with the broker right before this, so that pumped me up even a little more because
Yeah.
it was perfect timing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful,
So
man. Look,
combination.
I want to encourage everybody out there that when you feel like you're stuck in quicksand or you're struggling, or maybe you're not gaining the progress and momentum you need, you got to get, to Dan's point, the endorphins going. Motion creates emotion. You got to get the body moving. Prioritize your health. Exercise on a daily basis. That's one of my non-negotiables, daily sweat. And it's incredible, brother, the confidence booster that it gives us. And it's a ripple effect on every aspect of our life. So right now, if you're listening and you're going through it, like you're in winter, like you're getting kicked in the face, you're getting knocked down, it feels like everything is going wrong, get the body moving. Like disconnect for a little bit, get going, get a sweat. It's incredible how that will shift your energy, your mood, and then make it make it a habit. Make it a habit to just, what kind of deposits can you make in yourself on a daily basis that over time, or I should say in the short term, might not seem like much, but over time, it's that compound effect. And so, man, look, I want you to hold on to this feeling because, I hate to use the word guarantee. I can't guarantee very many things in life. The one thing I can guarantee is that you will be met with adversity at some point in the future. Like, and that goes for me and you and everybody else because that's life. If we are not met with adversity, that means we are no longer here. We're no longer here because it's life. We're going to be met with adversity. So I want you to bottle this up and remember that you have a decision and a choice to make, that you can still tap into this right now, even when you're going through winter, even when adversity
Yep.
strikes. All right. Life isn't about what happens to us, but it's been said that it's how we respond to things. It's our mindset, it's our attitude, it's our reaction, how we're going to approach something. So I just want to encourage everybody out there, as you're going along in this journey of pursuing your first self-storage deal, or maybe your next deal, and you just can't find the right one or whatever, uh, make some deposits in yourself. Sometimes it's more about the personal than it is about the business. Oftentimes, Dan, you know this, man. Like we've been on our Storage Wins calls where people will sometimes share questions that are challenges, and it's interesting, man. Sometimes personal challenges manifest as business challenges, and business challenges manifest as personal challenges, and they're all connected. So, brother, with that being said, I do want to touch on these two deals that you had mentioned. So, what's the deal? Let's start with the one where the seller was asking 600,000 and he was open to seller financing. But correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say the net operating income that you shared with me was around 30,000. And so based on 30,000, if you take that 30,000 divided by his asking price, fact check me here, but I believe that's a 5 cap. In other words, it's a 5% return on your money if you were to buy it cash, which is no bueno.
Right. Right.
That's not what we're looking for here, right? Now, if he was asking 300,000, that would be a 10 cap. That would be a lot more appealing. But seller financing is one of those things that can change the game. For the most part, I don't really concern myself too much with the price of something, provided that I can create and dictate the terms. And that is the down payment, the interest rate, and the term, the length of the loan, essentially. So, talk to me a little bit about where we stand with that particular deal.
He just emailed me over the weekend or this morning, saying that he's not interested and isn't it sounded like he's not really interested in even continuing the conversation.
Okay. Okay.
So
What was the switch? Was there any communication between our last podcast and today? Did he have an epiphany? Like, give us a little bit of context and background here.
I left him a message, just asking to have another conversation if he has a chance to call back so we can talk through it and I can help refine the offer to match what's more appealing to him. And I will keep following up and hope to have another
So,
conversation with him.
so look, there's a lot of different ways to approach these situations, right? And so my personal feelings doesn't, I want to be crystal clear, doesn't mean that this is the only way to approach it. It doesn't even mean it's the right way to approach it. But and you know what I think, you know what I'm going to say, Dan, because it served me very well that whenever you think about it, this is a negotiation. Like, make no mistake about it. Whether he's actually pulling away and he's no longer interested in selling, or he is, my gut tells me there's probably some interest in still selling there. I don't think he had an epiphany overnight and all of a sudden it's like, no, I absolutely don't want to sell it. There's something that went off the tracks there, and we might not know what that is, and it might take a lot longer than we have on this episode to dissect and figure out like what was it that happened. But as a general rule of thumb, and you know this, I want people chasing me. I don't want to be chasing them, right? I want to attract. I don't want to chase. You know the analogy that I always share, right? But like, if you are listening to this and you're married or you're dating, first time, or maybe you're single, but you have dated in the past, or you know you were married or whatever. First time you met that person and you went on a date, like imagine if you crowded their personal space, if you were trying to have a conversation with them and you were like leaning in like an inch away from their nose. I always say this, what is that person going to do? Right? 99 out of 100 people, if not 100 out of 100, are probably going to back up like, whoa, like, dude, we just met, like this is our first date. Like, why are you all up in my personal space? Right? That can be the equivalent of what people do when they want a deal so bad that they start leaning into the seller, and the seller does what? The seller's backing away. So this sounds like a situation where the seller said, for whatever reason, he's no longer interested in selling. And what did you do? You said, well, hey, let's hop on a call. Let me see if I can refine my number. Let me see if I can, who's chasing who there?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's me chasing him.
It's you
I
chasing him.
tried to word it in a way where I said, I have some other deals that I'm working on that I'm working to get under
Good.
contract.
Good.
That if I can't answer the phone, if you could leave a message, that would be great. It might be something along the lines of like, I might be busy
Okay.
working on those deals.
Okay.
But if I can, I'll answer. So I tried to not chase him too much, but I still wanted to follow up.
Yeah. So look, there's a lot of different ways you can approach this, man. But like one thing, just as an understanding, it's when they pull away, you're pulling away equally, right? Hey, listen, I got the feeling that this probably wasn't going to work. I know you're looking for X, and I'm probably not going to be able to get in that range, and so listen, now that it's over, right? I'm just curious, like what's your next plan? I mean, I have a couple things I'm working on now in terms of deals. And so I realize it's not going to work out, but maybe I can add value, or maybe I can point you in the right direction. Just kind of curious, like what's your plan with the facility now? So you see how we kind of, and look, I just shot from the hip there. There's probably a better way to address that, but I just want you to get the big picture. I'm backing up, I'm stepping away, but hey, now that it's over, so there's my bridge to give me passage into the next conversation. Hey, just curious, now that it's over, and by the way, if I were you, I'd probably keep the facility too. Great facility, you know, as long as you're willing to do insert pain point, whatever he may have shared with you, right? As long as you're willing to do that, like, I think it's a great facility to hold on to. And that's why it's important, by the way, to have conversations, to ask questions and get to understand why they're even considering selling. There's gotta be something, and maybe it's not a pain point, but there's something that has them feeling like they're willing to sell. And maybe it's less about pain and more about desire. And so insert, hey, look, it's a great facility. Is maybe now if things have changed and you're no longer looking to travel and take some time off, and it's I would, so you see what I'm doing? I'm stepping away and I'm kind of like I'm stabbing at the wound a little bit. I'm kind of like just poking at it a little bit. And now that it's over, just curious, like what's your plan with the facility? So I ask a question to get him to respond, him or her. I don't end in a statement. I don't say like, hey, call me back when you can. Because that's a statement. It doesn't elicit a response. And then if I don't get a response back, I'm certainly not going to call him the next day or anything like that. Right. I might wait. Some of this is a little bit of art and less science, and some is science and art, right? It's a combination. You kind of have to feel it out based on the seller's personality type and how your communication with that person has gone. But if I don't hear from them, I'll pull a go not okay, right? It's like, hey, Mr. We spoke about this last week. Hey, Mr. Seller, I have to apologize to you. I feel like I have absolutely insulted you or offended you because I haven't heard back, and maybe it's not that, and something happened. I really hope you're okay. But if I did offend you, my apologies. It's interesting, that approach, because most of the time they're going to respond back and make sure you're okay. Like, hey, no, you didn't offend me or anything. It's a bit strategic, right? And so I don't necessarily love the approach, but it's maybe you did insult them with your offer. Maybe you did insult them with whatever. And so I don't think you're being disingenuous, right? But it is certainly a way to pull away and have them come back. And if they don't, man, let the technology do the work for you in terms of your autoresponder, in terms of the marketing, the direct mail that you continue to send. Keep them on your list unless they tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard because about a month ago, as I touched on, or maybe it was 2 months ago, as we touched on this podcast, I missed out on a facility that I could have gotten to the seller's price on.
Okay.
And now it has me thinking, don't let a good opportunity slip away, but also balance that with don't chase. So
yeah. Okay. So let's
balance in there somewhere.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, man. And by the way, thank you for going there, because I had touched on at the top of the show that this was the painful learning lesson for you from last week when you and I had a coaching call, and so it's your story to tell. Give us the Cliff Notes version. I just totally dated myself. You guys now know I'm in my mid-40s, but basically give us the synopsis, give us the summary of the deal. Like, and again, we don't need to know the specifics of but just what did this deal represent in net positive cash flow to you? Meaning your expenses were paid, your debt service was paid to the bank and even a private lender. So this was an opportunity to get into a deal with no money out of your pocket. And what would the net cash flow to you, not to anybody else, just to you, have been?
It would have been about $100,000.
But I think it was a hair over.
It was like 110,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Year one.
Yeah, $110,000 in net cash flow in year one. Now, when you analyze the deal, what we call underwriting, you saw that, right? Was that you just missed that line item, which obviously is impossible to miss, because you know that's one of the big things we look at. It's like, hey, what's the cash flow? And then what is the equity upside? In other words, if we bought it for $1 million today, what's it going to be worth in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Okay, based on some conservative projections, based on us raising the rents, implementing our systems, etc. So you saw this. Refresh my memory. It wasn't a whole lot of meat on the bone from an equity perspective, right? It wasn't like you were going to be doubling your money in 3 or 5 years or anything like that. But you're talking 8 to 9, $9,000, let's call it, or so a month in cash flow, net cash flow. What happened? Like, why'd you pass on this one?
As I was looking at my spreadsheet, analyzing the deal, looking at the returns table that shows me my projections with the deal, I I thought one of the lines that's the cash out refinance, the before I can cash out refinance had to be much shorter, and I didn't realize it could just be a long-term hold, and that could be the exit strategy.
Yeah.
And so to me, looking at it, I didn't fully understand that part, and somebody else swooped in very quickly and got it under contract at the exact price that they told me they were looking for.
So you found out that they were under contract now at the same exact price that you could have gotten a deal for. Okay.
Yep.
So how'd it make you feel? And what's the takeaway from it? Like what decisions have you made as a result of that moving forward? Because you went through the pain. Now you get to decide, what's Tony Robbins say? Like pain is gonna happen, but suffering is optional. And so if you're gonna go through the fire, you might as well come out refined on the other end. So what?
Absolute. Yeah.
Yes. So tell me, what that was about a week or so ago that we had that conversation. How are you feeling about it now, and what decisions are you making moving forward?
It was the absolute gut punch. I I was losing sleep over it, honestly. I would wake up and like not be able to get back to sleep thinking I could have had this opportunity. And like just in disbelief that it was right in front of me and I didn't recognize it. So yeah, that hurt a lot. But we talked about it, and the learning from that is huge. It's realizing I don't need every projection to be like perfect in order for a deal to look like a deal. Just instead recognize what the goal is. How can this facility work? Is it a cash flow deal or an
Yeah.
equity deal or a combination?
Yeah, man.
And if I have this one right in front of me and it's showing that it's cash on cash returns are fantastic, or um, the cash flow is great, uh, then that could make it a deal. It doesn't need to be an equity play. So
Yeah.
a huge learning from it, because now I just thought of last week as we were talking about this, probably 10 other facilities I've been looking at recently that I can go back through with this adjusted lens and mindset and
Yeah.
reach out to the sellers again and adjust my offer if they're still open to a discussion.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it was a mind blowing moment to understand it this way.
Well, like I shared with you, Mel Robbins, I think her book, The 5 Second Rule, right? Like let yourself go through it, like feel the feels, and then snap out of it, which to your credit, you've done. Because I remember it was, last week when we spoke, it was almost like the loss of a loved one to a certain degree. Maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, but you know what I mean, dude. It sucks. And I get it. You feel like you missed out on a great opportunity. The one thing I do know though, man, is that like what's for you is meant for you. And, sometimes I truly believe, brother, God's rejection is oftentimes his redirection. And so this one wasn't the one for you. And by the way, just because they're under contract, I just talked to a broker last week. I won't mention his name just in case I don't think he'd have an issue with it. But anyways, a pretty well-known broker. And he said that guess how many out of all his listings, guess how many of them are closing?
I would love to know that number.
50%, he said.
Unbelievable. That's what I would have guessed once you rose that as a
He said
question.
1 out of 2 of his listings are closing, which means 1 out of 2 are not closing. And so there's a 50% chance that deal doesn't even close. This is the time where you don't chase, but you stay in front and build a relationship. And that could be a letter, by the way. That could be a handwritten letter that you send. And by the way, like pro tip here, whenever I send direct mail, a live forever stamp with 3 or 4 penny stamps makes it look like nobody's going to toss that bad boy. It's going to get opened. Handwritten on the outside. I like a 5x7 manila style envelope. Send a letter and say, hey, look, I really appreciate our conversations. I understand you're under contract. I wish you the best. I hope for you it closes. If for whatever reason it doesn't, and there still might be an opportunity, let me know. And if I can add value, if there's something I can do for you, and mean it, by the way, or don't say it. Um, and man, I could tell you countless stories of situations in which I have just continued to follow up as the welcome guest, not the annoying pest, not like blowing them up every day or every other day. And the deal falls apart and you are there because you've entered the conversation happening in their mind at that time. So number one, it's not over. Number two, even if it is, get refined from going through the fire. Now, it's okay that it happened once. Just don't let it happen twice. Now you know. Now you know. So and don't feel guilty about it, by the way. Man, we all make mistakes. You know how many deals I've lost out on and missed opportunities, and happens all the time, man. We learn from it. We learn from it. Okay?
Yeah. This was such an epiphany moment to drop the Storage Wins coaching here that I did the underwriting call on it last week. So
Awesome. So
shared it with the group.
You and I know what you're talking about, but just quickly talk, just so sometimes we forget that we're recording a podcast, right? But like, what are you talking about? You did the underwriting call.
Yeah. So in Alex's, in this Storage Wins coaching group, I've been hosting a weekly or bi-weekly underwriting call where I run through a deal and from start to finish, or focusing on one key aspect of analyzing a deal. And this was last week's topic.
Awesome. I'm curious, what kind of feedback did you get from other storage winners on the call? What type of questions, takeaways? Like, how did it land with people?
Yeah, everybody was very appreciative who was there, and it really got some positive feedback. So I was happy that it landed that way with him.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And by the way, guys, I challenged Dan months ago. I said, if you really, really want to get good at this, you learn and then teach. That is one of the best ways. And so to his credit, he's been doing that. Not only has he gotten better evaluating and underwriting deals, but he's built more meaningful relationships, friendships that may or may not open up more doors in the future. My gut tells me it will, because he's giving. And he's going to invest the time and energy anyway. So you can do the same thing if you're not part of a community or a group. And you can just find a couple of people that are interested in storage and say, hey, we're going to hop on Zoom or Google Meet. Let's look at deals together. Okay? So, Dan, there was one other thing I wanted to ask you here, and it just escaped me, brother. But I want to start to put a bow on this episode, and we'll continue to build from here, man. But like, with all that said, there's a lot of positive momentum. I feel a sense of energy. You got some wins behind you that are carrying you forward here. What's next? Like, what are you going to continue to do that is working? In other words, as you've heard me say on our Storage Wins group coaching calls, what's your right next step?
I'm going to go back through some of the offers I've made recently with this adjusted lens of a longer term hold, to see if those deals, if any of them could still make sense, to get closer to the seller's asking price or terms on some of those, and see if I can rework any of those into a more favorable outcome.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, hey, dude, I'm proud of you, man. Not just for the progress that you've made, but for like licking your wounds when it's easy to just like stay down, and you decided, hey, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep pushing. And I'm not going to let anything get in my way. And you've had that mindset, and then coming on here and just being open about, hey, these are the challenges. These are the lessons learned. Because of that genuineness and that transparency, I'm confident it's going to continue to bring the right people into your world and into your ecosystem. You're helping others, and you can't lose by giving and by helping. That's the one thing I know with certainty. You cannot lose by helping others and sharing your story. And you're on the journey anyway, so you might as well share it and be authentic. And so for that, man, I applaud you, dude, because a lot of people are not willing to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I mention one more thing too on this
Yeah.
note of attracting and not chasing?
Yeah.
So that's something I've consciously been working on, and it applied with this storage facility that I missed out on with where I could have gotten to the seller's asking price. And one of the pieces of feedback the broker gave me is that they felt I was a little pushy. And I said, wow, I really appreciate you sharing that,
That's
because
awesome.
it's kind of it's live feedback that I've been trying to work on not doing that, but obviously it had an effect on the seller. So
Man, brother,
something,
once again, thank you, because
yeah.
that's a gift you just gave a lot of people.
Mhm.
Uh,
So
just by sharing, like, hey, dude, like I just got kicked in the balls here, kind of thing, right? A broker told me, like, hey, I was pushed you, like, man, that can be a little hard to
yeah,
hear, right? Like,
yeah.
I get it. Like, constructive criticism doesn't feel good, but it's that refinement process we talked about earlier. Did you happen to ask a follow-up for him to give you a little bit more? Like, did you ask for any specifics or additional context, or you just kind of left it at that?
I left it at that. Um, he vouched for me, again, going back to having the relationship with him, that I'm a genuine guy, and like he's a good guy. Just it didn't come across right on the phone. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I didn't ask more there.
All right. Well, man, that will only help you moving forward because everything starts
Yeah.
with awareness. And now you just have a certain level of awareness about it. And hear me loud and clear. I don't want Dan to change or be different. I want him to be Dan, just like I want you to be you and I'm going to be me. But now with a certain level of awareness, we get to decide how we're going to show up. And we're not going to show up as needy and we're not going to chase. There's a big difference between follow up and just chasing and being that annoying pest. Massive difference. Like there's a certain level of persistence that you need to have in order to get the things you want in life. But again, sometimes it can be a fine line between being persistent and just coming across very aggressive or salesy and you might not know what that is right now and you'll figure it out by taking that massive imperfect action we always talk about and then being open to constructive criticism. And obviously Dan, you were, man, so thanks for sharing that last little nugget in there, man. Like insanely valuable. The last thing I will mention here before we wrap this one, that you mentioned it earlier and I think it's a perfect way to put a bow on this. You said twice now at the beginning of the show and just now that the seller or that the broker, I'm sorry, was going to vouch for you. The only reason that broker was willing to vouch for you and even told you that is because you instilled in him a certain level of confidence that you were committed to this and that you were going to get it done one way or the other. Right. And then on top of that, understand that brokers want to sell you. Brokers get hired by storage owners. Storage owners are essentially a broker's boss. And the broker is expected to bring offers to that storage owner. So believe me, they want your offers and they want to sell you. So make it easy for a broker to sell you. That's where our secret weapon, a buyer info sheet, right? Which maybe what we'll do, Dan, is maybe we'll do the next episode and we'll just dive a little bit further into that. I think that could be super helpful so we don't leave
Yeah.
people hanging there on that buyer info sheet. But when you have that and when you build a relationship, you're giving the broker ammo to be able to go out there and fight the battle on your behalf with the seller. Okay, so you don't want to look at a broker or negotiation as, hey, I'm across from you, but more I'm sitting alongside you. How do we work together as a team to get this thing over the finish line in a way in which you're not chasing? Well,
Simple
dude,
as that.
hey, man, well done, brother. Again, proud of you, man. Let's continue to build on this momentum. Do not rest on your laurels. I'd love to see, why don't you push yourself, man? Can you get to 4 or even 5 offers this week? We know now that you have a bunch of
Yeah.
opportunities that maybe you didn't think were opportunities in the past that now they are. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
with that being said, guys, here's my takeaway, or I guess call to action is a better way to say it, is connect with Dan. Start to build a relationship with people. Make sure that you're part of the Storage Wins Facebook group. It's free to join. Just find it on Facebook, Storage Wins. You'll see it pop up. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Storage Wins podcast, that you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, which is Alex Pardo. And then if you want to have a conversation about storage and you feel like this could be the right next move for you, head over to storagewins.com. With that being said, Dan, keep crushing, man, and I will catch you on the next one.
Sounds great. Thanks, Alex.